Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar. It is a real pleasure to have the opportunity to speak to you today about the online music theory tutor role at Starling Music Academy. My name is Rhiannon Jeffries. I am the founder of Starling Music Academy. I'm also a professional musician. I'm a flautist, clarinetist, and saxophonist. I studied at Trinity Laban. And I founded Starling in about April 2020. That's when I first had the idea. And since then, I've been fortunate enough to win 2 innovation awards for my work with the company. A little bit later, I'm going to introduce my colleague, Matt. But first of all, I just want to talk you through some of the problems that I identified that drove me to start Starling. So the main issue that I was having in April 2020 when I was trying to teach my students music theory online is that I knew that there were online resources and the students had the books and I had the books, but for some reason I was finding it so difficult to effectively teach them. So I thought, why, especially as the exams moved online shortly after in 2020, I thought surely there must be a better way to teach music theory. So I think that the solution is structured and supportive online learning. But as you'll find out in a bit, that doesn't just mean only virtual, only computerized. The theory tutors are going to be a really big part of this solution. Also, apologies, I forgot to mention, there is a Q&A section that you can enter questions into. If you can, please avoid putting questions in the chat, just because they might be missed. So please do use Q&A, and then after we've gone through the presentation, then we will be answering some of those questions. So boring, difficult, and inaccessible was some of the words that were being used when I was asking my students and parents, and actually even some teachers as well, what their opinions were on music theory. And I think this is a real shame. I don't know about a lot of you, but I often find that I have students come to me who I say, right, we've got to do the music theory. And they groan and they say, oh, I can't do it. I don't understand it. And, you know, I really believe, and I'm sure the fact that you're all here today means that you believe as well, that music theory is a really integral and essential part of music education. And it's really important to me that we get rid of this barrier that grade 5 seems to present to a lot of students, because as you can see here on this graph, the drop-off rate between grades 5 and 6 for practical exams is actually almost double that of the next natural drop-off rate between grades 3 and 4. So if we at Starling Music Academy can get more students through their music theory exams, we could actually then get more students through their practical exams, their higher level practical exams, and possibly even into the industry, which is really exciting. So we believe that the solution for this is a tailored course for every student. And a little bit later, Matt's going to talk you through how we have achieved that. Another huge problem that I was finding, and again, I'm sure many of you find this as well, I love teaching music theory, but when I am in my instrumental lessons, it is a big frustration for me and for the student when I'm having to take time out of those lessons to do the theory, even though it's essential and even though I like teaching it. So I think that it's really important that students are able to have somewhere external that they can go to do their theory so that they retain 100% of their instrumental lesson times with their teacher. And also we really wanted to make a place that music teachers could confidently send their students. So now I'm going to hand over to my colleague Matt, who is going to introduce himself and then talk you through the course itself and what the student experience is. So Matt, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. I really hope that you're all able to stay warm this very chilly, snowy day. My name is Matthew Jackson, and I am the content manager. I've been working alongside Rhiannon now for about 18 months. I've been working with her to create the course that we're offering to our students, which will show you a little bit about Now, a little background about me. I am a music graduate. I have a master's in critical and applied musicology from the University of Leeds. I am a pianist, and I have done a bit of choral singing as well as a little bit of teaching, basic sort of piano level and music theory as well. So we thought that it would be best to show you a sort of typical week, the journey that the student might go through each week, taking the course with Starling. So first of all, each student would sit through a video lesson. It sort of ranges from 8 to 10 minutes per week. So it's never too long or overbearing, but it will cover in quite some detail a particular topic following the ABRSM grade books. After they've taken the video lesson, they'll then be invited to take a weekly quiz. And this will be the element that we will use to assess the students to make sure that they're on the right track and that they've understood everything that we've covered in the video lesson. Once they've taken the quiz, then they will receive feedback from a personalized tutor. So this might be in written form, or it could be via a video one-to-one session. We'll come on to the different types of feedback that we are looking to offer in just a minute. So here is what the student might see. I guess this is the sort of student dashboard. And as you can see, this is personalized for each student. We've got a course player that they are able to access the next video. Underneath that is just a little run through about what I've just explained, the sort of timeline during the week. There's a little bit about the tutor that you will be having. So as you can see, this one would be Rhiannon, and there's a little bit of biography. We've got some useful links just in case the student and or parent or guardian wants to find out a bit more information. And then beneath that at the bottom is just a recap of all of the course content that has been provided to the student so far. So you can see that they can recap videos and quizzes. Here's a little example of what a session might look like. We are just going to take a quick look now at some pitch videos. So here's a very early on lesson about pitch.
If I add a treble clef, this note becomes a B. You can work that out in a number of ways if you're not already familiar with reading notes in treble clef. If you remember that the alternative name of the treble clef is G clef, and that it's called that because the line the clef wraps around is where you find the note G, you can then walk up through the pattern of notes from there. Alternatively, if you remember where middle C is, you could walk up from there instead. Just make sure you follow the line, space rule, as well as the A to G naming pattern. If I now change the clef to the bass clef, the note, which is still in the same position on the stave, would now be called a D. We can use the same techniques that we used before to work that out, but remember that your starting points will be in different places. As this clef is also called the F clef, as the two dots are either side of the line that F is on, you then need to count down or backwards through the A to G naming pattern. Or, if you remember that middle C is here, you can work down through the notes from there. Try these examples. Complete the bars by adding in the correct missing rest value where indicated. Make sure to pay close attention to the time signatures so that you know how many beats are needed for each bar.
for some of our videos, as you can see here, we ask some interactive questions. So rather than getting the student to sit through 10 minutes of just talking and not really taking part, this is a way that we're able to get them involved, and also to validify that they've sort of have been understanding and following the contents of the lesson. And then following on from that, as I mentioned before, they'll have the opportunity to take the quiz at the end of each lesson. And then this is what the tutor will be able to assess. So this will get marked automatically, but we'll talk through in a bit more detail about what the tutor's role will be using the data that we collect through these quizzes. Sometimes for particular topics as well, there might be a review ebook section which we can offer. This is particularly useful for all of those sort of quite challenging and with lots of terms to remember. So we've managed to put everything in sort of one nice, concise place for the student to recap whenever they wish to go over these topics and words and phrases again. And then you can see here that there is an option for them to enter a live session with the tutor. So this will pop up when it's not quite ready, but this will be where the video link will be with their own personal tutor. They'll have access to an inbox as well. So this will be where we're able to deliver feedback to the student, and also an opportunity for the student to ask any further questions, perhaps if they require a bit more understanding on a certain topic or area, and then the tutor is able to respond. And also they're in charge of saying, yeah, I think you've understood that this week's lesson really well. I'm therefore going to give you the next video session for you to work on. So the tutor will be in charge of sort of unlocking each video as the student progresses to make sure that they've really got a thorough understanding. So we've sort of covered a few of the what we've created to help with the solution. So first of all, that was our interactive course player. So we've developed this to improve the learning experience online. The second point that we've done is to create something called the Course Creator Quiz, which is a selection of questions that the student will answer before they have the course built for them. So this will be one of the first things that they do once they've signed up. And the beautiful thing about this is that it's a reactive quiz. So we're never asking too many questions, a real abundance of questions, which could be quite boring or frustrating, particularly if you've got minimal experience or you are only just starting out with learning music theory. It will ask you from the very basic level questions. I mean, if you get one wrong, then it might change to a different question at a much lower level again, just so that we get a real understanding of what the student knows and if there's any gaps in the student's knowledge. And then the other thing that we are offering is the tutors. So this is where you'll come in. Each student will have their own personal tutor to help guide them through their journey. So I'm now going to pass it back over to Rhiannon, who's going to talk a little bit more about this role.
Thank you, Matt. So at this point, talking about the actual tutor role itself, you might have realized by this point that, you know, this is not your sort of typical music theory teaching job, because at Starling, we're taking care of the lesson planning itself and the delivery through video lessons, and also the testing through the quizzes. But I really felt when developing this company that it was so important not to remove the human element of music education. So my main hope for the tutors is that we're looking for people who are going to really support our learners and be able to, we're hoping to pair students who play the same instruments as the tutors, so that, you know, if you're teaching them chords or they're learning about chords, then, you know, and you can say, well, look in this piano piece, it's got this cadence. It would be really great to be able to bring in all those different elements. So there are two different ways that the tutor can provide feedback, as you saw earlier, and this all relates to the different subscription types that the students can choose to take. So we've called them Classic and Plus. Now with Classic, the student will receive written feedback once a week via the internal inbox. And then if they're on the Plus subscription, then they will receive a 20-minute live session once a week via the internal video player. We're taking safeguarding very, very seriously, which is why every communication that you do as a tutor with the student will be through our site itself. So the messages that you send in the inbox will go to an email will be sent to the parent or the guardian, to say that you've left a message, but it will all be able to be viewed within the site only. And the same as you saw with the live sessions. So they will all take place, they can be set up internally, and then the student will join internally. So there's absolutely no email address swapping whatsoever or anything like that. Now, I've really tried to make this role as flexible as possible. So with the written feedback, feedback must be given no later than 2 days after the student's hand-in day. So, for example, if the student's hand-in day is a Tuesday, you might wish to give the feedback on the Wednesday, but then if for whatever reason you're not able, because of performing commitment or other teaching work, you're not able to do that feedback on the Wednesday, you can defer it until the Thursday. We're really, obviously we're just launching this role, and I should have mentioned as well that we are going to be launching the first part of our service to paying students in January, which is very exciting. So that is when we're going to be looking to take the tutors on. So we're going to trial, first of all, making sure that the role is very flexible, and as I say, 2 days is what you'll have to give the written feedback. With the Plus feedback, so basically with the live sessions, instead, we ideally would like the lessons to happen at the same time every week. But to start with, we are only going to be offering live sessions Monday to Friday, 3 till 7 p.m. So we're just trying to make it much more concise, so that tutors, if you say, yes, I'm available on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, then you'll know exactly what sort of timings we might assign students to you. Now, in order to make the feedback process really, really simple for you, because obviously we're collecting a lot of the data from the quizzes that the students are taking, we are in the process of finalizing our tutor dashboard. Now, what I'm going to show you here is essentially a sort of prototype, or it's a mock-up of what the charts might look like, just as we're finishing off the dashboard itself, but it will still give you the sort of idea of what you would see. So I'd like you to imagine that you are looking at, let's take Theo, the student from the recording that we showed you just now. So if you were Theo's tutor, you might look at his weekly quiz breakdown for the last week. So you can see it looks like this was an intervals or chords lesson, because the majority of the questions were from that. And you can see that it seems like the student has got a really good understanding of the new concept. There was a couple of questions answered incorrectly, so you might be able to give feedback on that. Rhythm and pitch, those questions didn't have a problem with, so you could give that positive feedback as well. But you could also ask if they wanted to check anything that had already been covered in keys and scales or performance directions, if there's anything that they wanted to check with you. So it's a dialogue that you can start based on what you're seeing on these charts. So this is the weekly quiz breakdown, but we're also going to provide topic reports. So there are 5 main topics, so that's sort of the pitch, the rhythm, keys and scales, that sort of thing. But then we're actually breaking them down into subtopics. So for example, time signatures. And we want to make it super simple for you to be able to monitor the students' progress over time. So looking at this chart, for example, Lesson 4 and Lesson 12, there was obviously a bit of a dip in understanding. Perhaps that was when new concepts in time signatures were introduced. So, but the positive thing is that you can see with this chart is that hopefully through reinforcement, positive feedback, or just more time spent on this topic, there's been an upward trajectory afterwards. So that's really, really positive. And it's really, I think it's going to be very helpful to be able to see that laid out so clearly. And then the last part that you might see, so this is an example of what a grade report might look like. So we've broken it down. So it's very, very simple to just take that information in straight away and be able to see what are the students' strongest topics, what are their weakest topics, and be able to give that feedback and be able to give them the guidance. So although Starling is collecting the data, we are really looking for tutors who can sort of take that in and follow the students' progress and give them really positive, enthusiastic, engaging feedback based on that. So we've talked a lot about the perks for the students and what we're trying to create for them, but I just want to go over what are the perks for you as a tutor. So as I've mentioned, I've designed the role with flexibility built in. So not only is there flexibility already within when you can provide feedback for example, the classic students, but also we are building our database so that it's very easy for us to move students around and assign them to different tutors. So if, for example, you teach on a Friday and you're giving the video sessions between 3 and 7, and you contact us and you say, in a few weeks' time, I've got a gig, I'm going to be in a sound check or whatever it is, I'm not going to be able to do it. This is why we would love to build a small pool of tutors so that we can move students between the tutors so that their learning is never interrupted, but you wouldn't feel at risk of losing the work long term because you aren't able to commit every week. Obviously, we are looking for some level of commitment, of course, but I just want to reassure you that that flexibility is being built in because I would really love this role to appeal to performing musicians. It can be done anywhere with an internet connection. That is the beauty of it as well. It's what is a great thing about it being an online service, but again, so that we don't lose that human element, that's why we do have this tutor role. And also, I don't know about you, but I can sometimes find it a little frustrating, either dealing with parents or rescheduling. It can be a real frustration when you have to inform lots and lots of different parents that I can't do that evening, and then you have to try and find different time to reschedule. So we take that stress out of it for you. So you contact us and we will then make sure that your students are covered, obviously with enough notice, but hopefully that is those perks are nice and appealing. So we just want to talk about the kind of person that we are looking for. You've probably got pretty much a good idea, but just to reinforce that, we're looking for people that are passionate and enthusiastic about teaching music theory. Because I do think it really is something that can enhance students' learning. And because, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of people do see it as something that is boring and inaccessible, we would really like to change that perspective. And I think tutors are going to be a really great way for us to do that. We're also looking for people who are supportive and encouraging, and also patient and understanding, because from my personal experience, I have found that a lot of my students or a lot of the students that come to me to do theory feel almost guilty, like they should already be able to understand these topics because they are, say, grade 5 on their instrument. And obviously, we're looking for people who can recognize that just because they can learn well one way doesn't mean that they're necessarily, are built to learn music theory as at the same rate. And also understanding that there is not 100% crossover, obviously, between the practical grades and also we need someone who's a good communicator. So we're looking for people who can give really good written feedback, but also verbal feedback. And I should mention that you will be able to let us know whether you would be happy to do both the written feedback and the verbal feedback. So if you would rather just do one, if you feel that your timetable is not flexible enough that you would be able to commit to the video sessions, then you can tell us that you would rather just take on classic students. Okay, now on to pay. So the starting pay is going to be £18 per hour. And let me talk you through the breakdown of how this works. So for classic, for every classic student, we will pay you for 15 minutes per student. And then for the plus students, it will be 30 minutes total. 20 minutes of that is the video session, 10 minutes is for admin. So the admin might involve scheduling the next, making sure that the next video session is in their course player, or just having a look at the dashboard, maybe 5 minutes before. We'll be looking at the dashboard, 20 minutes to do the session, and then 5 minutes to set them the next lesson and set the next video session as well. And it will also mention that this role is going to be a self-employed role. So just to clarify that. Okay, so now I'm going to hand back to Matt quickly, and he is going to talk you through the application process.
Okay, thank you very much. So the application process is quite simple. There's 3 steps to it. So after this, all of you that have signed up either here live in session or signed up to get the recording should also receive an application link, and the first stage of the process will be a written application. So this will just ask for some basic details, perhaps your right to work status, just to clarify that you're okay to teach in the UK, and also outlining any teaching experience that you might have. It's not, we would be looking ideally for people with a decent amount of teaching experience, but of course we're open to considering other avenues where you might have relevant experience. So following on from the written application, there'll then be a short theory test just to make sure that you're confident with up to grade 5 ABRSM music theory, particularly sort of a new style of syllabus that they've introduced in the last couple of years. We're not looking for people that get 100% on this. So please answer honestly to the best of your abilities, because we know that 100% is tricky to get at that grade 5 standard. So we're just making sure that you've got a decent fundamental understanding of the concepts up to that level. Then if you're successful with the theory test, you'll then be asked to have an interview with us, have a little chat, and this will be an opportunity to show how you might deal with certain scenarios and situations in your teaching. There are a couple of other points before getting to the interview stage. So we will let you know if you do not pass the first 2 stages of the application. And there might be a chance as well, depending on the number of students that we have and the amount of interest that we get for the tutors, that it might be that we're just at capacity for tutors at that point, in which case, if you're successful, we will hold your file so that in the future, if we get more students or a post opens up, then we can contact you at a later stage to be invited to interview. And then if you're successful at interview, welcome aboard. That will be the journey to take you through. So hopefully our session today, minus a little slip up, has encouraged you to perhaps submit an application later. I'm going to hand it back over to Rhiannon now, who's going to talk a little bit more now about the affiliate program, which is another answer to one of the solutions. So back to you, Rhiannon.
Thank you very much. So the last problem that we identified at the beginning was that I felt that there needed to be a place for music teachers to confidently send their students. And in order to make that a reality, we've created our own affiliate program. And I'm just going to talk you through quickly what that involves. So our affiliate program is a way for music teachers to make referrals, and for every referral that they make, they earn for that, and the person that they refer will also receive a discount. So as you can see, you can make student referrals, but you can also make referrals to other affiliates. I would love for this to become a really nice big community of teachers and tutors where, you know, we as Starling are supporting music students, but we're supporting teachers as well. So, but we really wanted to make sure that teachers were rewarded for that. So there are two ways that you can cash in your voucher, your reward. So you might receive gift vouchers for a music store of your choice. There is a list on our website of stores that we offer vouchers for. And we've tried really hard to make sure that there's a variety of lots of different instrument stores, sheet music stores and all that sort of thing. Alternatively, the option to donate to one of the charities we support. So for example, we support Help Musicians, we support youth music, and we also support a charity called the Good Things Foundation, which is a charity that is aiming to reduce digital poverty. But not only would you, as a music teacher, earn rewards for referring your students and have 100% of your lesson time back, we are also offering the opportunity for you to opt in to receive progress reports for your students. The students must opt in as well, but if you refer them, you can let them know that you'd like to receive reports and ask them to opt in. And we really hope that this will just be a way for us to really fully support both the students and the teachers, because if the teachers can see the progress that the students making with us, they can then reinforce that, and they can just be aware of, okay, how long am I going to have before I can enter them for their grade 6 practical exam, for instance. So that's just a little introduction here. So you can see in the top corner that there is a QR code here. If you were to scan this QR code, it takes you to a very, very, very short capture form. And this is not a, yes, I'd like to sign up to the affiliate program. It is just a way for us to be able to send you all of the information. This is just a very brief overview for you to make a decision about that mailing list. Either it is just one email. And if you don't get to this now, it will be up at the end of the session as well after the Q&A. So don't worry about that at all. So now I'm going to stop sharing, and I can see that we have some questions in the Q&A. So Matt, I think you were going to just grab some questions if you're happy to do that.
Yeah, we've got a couple of questions. It's not too late if you've still got a question that you'd like us to answer. If you can drop it in now, and we can get around to it hopefully before the end of the session. So I guess the first question that we had was, will the note durations also be presented in metric or alternative formats? This is a really good question. I don't mind taking this one. So we did discuss quite early on about how we'd like to name things like note names and you know, do we say measures or bars or anything like that? And I think we came to the conclusion that because majority of our students will be taking their exam in the UK, that we will stick to the normal sort of quavers, crotchets style of naming. It's also what they will be using in the ABRSM book as well. I think obviously we're very at a very early stage of development, so it could be that if there is enough interest, we will be able to adapt the course at a later stage to include these also alternative naming conventions. If you would prefer as a tutor to teach it that way, there's sort of nothing to stop you from using that as sort of an alternative guide. I think just to be absolutely clear that it's not going to confuse or you know, give the student too much information that it just blurs the knowledge on that. So yeah, I think in short, no, not at the moment. The course is not using alternative naming conventions, but hopefully in the future, with development, who knows, we might be going worldwide at some point in a couple of years. But if we do, we'll adapt the course to take into account those alternative formats.
Yeah, if I could just add to that, the way that we can adapt the course, actually, once we have the course in place, actually being able to get the same voiceover back in, or either we record sort of a more sort of American version with different note names, it's actually going to be relatively simple for us to make that change. But we just decided at this point that to make sure that the information was getting across as easily and clearly as possible, we wanted to take out the crotchet or quarter note. We just wanted to make it really, really clear. But we will be listening to feedback from tutors and from students as well. And if we have people who say, I would prefer to learn it in a different way, then absolutely, that is definitely on the cards for us to include that in the future. So thank you for asking.
Cool. Next question. With the course creator quiz, is there a way to prevent students from guessing and potentially showing to have more knowledge than they actually have? Good question, Jacob. So for this one, yes, what we are asking the students to do, and this will be quite clear at the start of the course creator quiz, is to basically tell them, you know, there is an option. If you do not know the answer, please can you select a sort of, you know, I'm not sure on this question. And that will be our way of knowing where their limit is. I mean, there's obviously only so much that we can do to ensure that they follow those rules. But I think it will become quite apparent if they have been, you know, either looking at the answer in the book or online, because obviously their understanding of that when they progress through the course will be lacking. And as a tutor, it will be your role to pick up on that and identify that, oh, actually, maybe, you know, they don't have any knowledge on major keys, for example, when they got all of them right in the course creator quiz. So there are sort of ways that we'll be able to identify gaps in knowledge, even if they do end up, for whatever reason, looking up the answers or whatever during the quiz.
Yeah, and I do think that this is another reason that we have the tutor role, as you were saying, Matt. So we are making the course creator quiz as robust as possible, but obviously we can't necessarily guarantee you know, that they won't guess answers, but we are just making it clear that if they, you know, to get their best experience from the course, then they should answer honestly and not look at any answers and not try and guess. But yeah, I think the main takeaway from this is that this is exactly why we have the tutor role. So you can see if you've set them a lesson and they're absolutely not understanding it, then you might go, okay, well, why don't we go back a grade? You know, if this was grade 2 intervals, let's go back to grade 1 intervals. I'll set you this as well this week. So, you know, you have that option to actually add in topics that we didn't assign them to start with.
Yeah, and I've just seen that there's another question that's just been added, which hopefully that's answered, that if everyone gets a tailored course, is there the ability to go back and add in different topics? So yeah, that absolutely, that will be possible for the tutor to do once they've identified that there is that gap. Please, can you tell us the subscription cost for the pupils?
Yes, so for Classic, it's £45 a month, and for Plus, it is £76 a month. And one of the benefits that we're hoping to share with students who go for the Plus is that because of the live sessions, let's say, for instance, you have a student who in the last week's quiz, they got full marks. In your live session, you're not necessarily going to have to go back and give too much feedback. But what you might do is say, okay, let's have a head start on the next. So you will actually be able to assess in that 20 minutes, okay, how competent do we think they would be in the next session? Okay, in that case, this week, I might set you 2. So we're going to ask that students aren't set more than 2 in a week. But again, there's just that flexibility built in because of having that tutor role there.
Yeah, sorry, but it looks like I'm now being interrogated, but the light has just turned off in this room. So right, I think we've got one more question so far. So what is your commission for teachers if we subscribe with your platform?
So is this question is, okay, so you would need to be referred by another teacher in order to get a reward immediately at sign up. But then so that's if you were to subscribe yourself, but it's totally free to sign up. But then when you start then making referrals yourself, it's a one-off referral fee. So, you know, if you have a student who you refer, they use your code that you've got because you sign up to the platform, and they sign up as a classic student, then you will get a £5 reward added to your account. And just to clarify as well, the way that the rewards are working at the moment is that every 3 months, we will basically go back and look at how much you earned, and we will then let you know, and you will have pre-selected your music store or your charity that you want the rewards to go to, and you will then receive that in one go every 3 months. In the future, we'd love to make this a little bit more flexible, but just at the moment, just with the sort of technical infrastructure we have, this is our best solution at the moment. So, you know, we'd love to get feedback from you as we continue to develop further down the road on that, and what you would change if you could change anything.
So just to so there's another follow-up on that, which meant I meant, are you taking commission per each student that is booked in?
I'm not sure I understand. Well, we're not taking any commission, I don't think. Is that right, Matt?
So, I mean, obviously the student will be paying for a monthly subscription, but all the money that obviously, as we mentioned, the tutors will be getting £18 per hour. The rest of that will go towards sorry, that £18 is absolutely yours, and it doesn't really matter so much on how many students that you will teach. You know, we're not taking a particular commission out of that pay. But the rest of what we will get through subscription funds, it will go towards the development of the course. You know, we have ideas of potentially doing other courses like sight reading courses or oral courses. So yeah, I guess the money, the extra money outside of the tutor pay will go towards future development, so that we can grow and expand.
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, I can see the follow-ups in this. So yeah, we do have a flat rate. So £18 per hour breakdown as well of how you get paid for each of those students. But if you missed that bit, no worries, it'll be in the recording.
Cool. How many tutors do you envisage needing to start with?
That's a really good question. Essentially, it's going to be a bit of a politician's answer that we can't say for certain, because we're going to be having to see how many students we have sign up. But we are going to make sure that we are not just going to continue to accept applications if we don't have the room. So as we said, if you have submitted a written application and we find rack capacity, we'll let you know that it's holding. And we will then, what we didn't mention is we will then close the application process. So we will not allow new written applications, because we don't want people to feel that they are, you know, going through the process of doing the application and they're not able to actually take on students, or they're just waiting for ages. So if I had to put a number on how many, I imagine probably 3 to start with, tutors, but it all depends actually on how much commitment each tutor can provide, and what types of students they would be willing to take on. So unfortunately, I'm sorry, it's a bit of a vague answer, but we will make sure that we do keep you informed in the process, and we you know, will only allow new applications if we are able to accept them at that time.
Okay, final call for any questions in the Q&A, please. This has been great so far. I hope that we've been able to answer some of your queries.
I can see we do have a question of how do we get paid?
Yes.
Invoicing. As part of the dashboard, we are hoping to build in a really lovely, simple way for you to keep track of which students you have interacted with, which will then calculate how many hours you can then invoice for, and every month you will then be able to invoice us and we will pay that to you.
Yeah. Is there any opportunity to play online games with the students? This would enable a more interactive approach between student and tutor?
So I love this question because this is exactly what we are trying to build. So at this stage, no, we do not have anything specifically, but this is you're absolutely in the right sort of frame of mind. This is exactly the kind of thing that we do want to have. So we are going to be developing more sort of games like this, and the bigger essentially the platform, these elements will be able to add. But no, this is absolutely at the forefront of our plan, and we will obviously keep tutors involved. Any updates that we have, any new ways that you can help the students, we will be keeping you informed of that.
And then finally, I think we've just got another one coming, but also, how are we advertising?
So we will be advertising. So the enrollment process for students has been finalized this week. So we just need to test that, and then we will be able to start actually inviting students to enroll. So this is why we haven't done any advertising really beforehand, because we haven't had sort of enough of the process completed for us to share, but we will be advertising it through our social media channels. We're also a corporate member of ISM, so we'll be asking them to share it for us as well. And yeah, various different methods. But what we would really love is, we would love to access the music teachers, and we would love for to bring on for the affiliate program to grow, and for us to be really helping their students. So yeah, that's how we're going to be advertising.
I'm sure we'll be going around doing the schools and as well, because that would be a great avenue to get some more students on board. Final question, I think. So this one relates to flexibility. For example, if I could make half a day on Wednesday and Monday, but a full day Tuesday, would that work? And I think, yeah, absolutely. So as a tutor, you would provide a sort of typical schedule of when you might be free during the week. As Rhiannon said, if flexibility is difficult, then it might mean that actually it's best for you to provide that written feedback, so that you can do it sort of kind of within your own time, within the 48 hours as described earlier, rather than sort of interrupt the whole video session, because that's more of a scheduled activity. But even so, if you know with some degree of certainty that you'll be free majority of half the days Wednesday and Monday and a full day on Tuesday, submit that to us. And then relating back to one of the previous questions about how many tutors that we are looking for, we can then use that data. So we can work out, oh, actually we might need more tutors on those other half days on the Wednesdays and Mondays, for example. So yeah, it's all very useful for us to know, but it is absolutely not a problem if those are the only times that you could work. Okay, I think we have come to the end of the questions. Thank you so much for all of your participation. It's been great to have so many of you interested, and we really hope that once we send out the application links, we'll be getting lots of submissions from you. So yeah, I'll hand it back over to Rhiannon just to say a few final words.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, again, just thank you all so much for joining us today. If you do have any more questions, so shortly I will be resharing the screen, and it will have the QR code for the affiliate program sign up form, and also our email address. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to email us, and we will absolutely get back to you as soon as we can. So yeah, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. And yeah, we hope to hear from some of you soon. Thank you so much.